Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the PSU 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, joined as always when we're talking football is our co-host, Swiss Army Knife beat writer, just about Mr. Do-It-All for the Penn State Rivals site, Dylan Cowan-Crowley. Dylan, before we get into this episode, I just need to let our viewers know that we are sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the go-to ticketing app for all your Penn State athletics needs. Use the promo code Penn State Rivals and get $20 off your first order. If you've already used SeatGeek previously, just make a new email. It's that simple.
Big shout out to SeatGeek. Actually, just purchased my tickets for WrestleMania in 2 weekends from now. Actually, off SeatGeek. So shout out to SeatGeek for obviously use our promo code to get your Penn State tickets, but also any other sport events as well.
Yeah. Did you? Opening day is tomorrow. So hey.
Yeah, I actually have a Phillies opening day tickets. Unfortunately, that got moved to Friday already. But yeah, it's I'm a big baseball fan, as we've gone over before. So I'm excited that spring is here. Baseball season's winding up now.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, we have to start off with the Astros down in Houston. So.
We got to face Spencer Strider and the Braves to start the season.
So
I know the Phillies have Strider's number in the regular season, but I think in the regular season he's like 8-0 with like a sub-2 ERA. So
yeah, we might have a miserable opening day. It sounds like, but anyway, more importantly, Penn State athletics, Penn State football, spring ball's back, baby. I'm hyped. You're hyped, I'm sure. Yeah, we've seen 2 practices so far.
3.
What's the latest going on? Is Colton Nicky going to reignite this offense? And you probably can't see anything from the first 2 practices, so go ahead and tell me what you saw.
Yeah, no, so 3 practices. Well, I was at the first 2, and then we had our good friend Zach Saeko at last night's practice, since I couldn't make it. Had to deal with some family stuff. Nothing bad, just had some pre-planned arrangements. Yeah, so Zach was there last night for us. I wrote a great notebook, and I was there the first 2 weeks, and I'll be back up there next week. And I think we only have 2 more Tuesday practices, and then it's the spring game on the 13th. But, yeah, so what I've seen and what Zach has seen since he's been in all 3 practices so far is there's definitely an energy surrounding this team that maybe we didn't feel this time last year. The team feels more loose, especially offensively. And I think offensively, Andy Koltonicki is just a ball of energy. Like, what you get in his press conferences is what you're seeing on the field. That guy's a ball of energy. He likes to have fun, and he knows when to also, get down and be serious. He's not afraid to, cuss the guys out. He's not afraid to tell them to, to do something again, or to hustle, or do this or that. He definitely has an energy about him, but you can tell they're all out there having fun. Defensively, Tom Allen brings a lot of energy, not maybe the same as Andy Koltonicki, but brings a lot of energy. You can tell he's having fun out there being a defensive coordinator again, having just to worry about the defense, not having to worry about being a head coach. And there was a funny part in yesterday's press conference where there's or post-practice press conferences, media availability, whatever you want to call that. Tom Allen has adapted well to Penn State, except that he's still blowing his whistle a little bit too much for everybody else's liking. But
he thinks he's a head coach, though.
Yeah, some habits are tough to break. But everybody seems loose, both offensively and defensively. Offensively, I've been impressed by Ethan Gronkmeyer the first couple weeks. He throws a really nice ball for a freshman. He's well built. Drew looks good out there. He looks definitely slimmer, which James Franklin has mentioned. He looks slimmer, but he's still the same weight. So you could tell that he's maybe not that he was ever fat, but he's worked off some of that extra fat and moved that more into muscle. He's a leaner 250 now. At running back, Quinton Martin has stand out. Cam Wallace has standed out. Those 2 are battling for that. Has stood out. I get correct my grammar. Has stood out. Both those guys have done so. Competing for that 3rd spot. Wide receiver is still, moving in the right direction, but it's still a work in progress. James Franklin still wants a couple guys there to separate themselves from the pack, and that just hasn't happened just yet. So when is that going to happen? Is it going to be this spring? Is it going to be this fall? Is it going to take until week 1 against West Virginia, or even later for somebody to do that? We'll see. Julian Fleming seems to be adapted well to the system or program, I should say. Yeah. Offensive line, we've seen quite a bit. Notably Cooper Cousins is working out at center, and he's going to be competing for that starting center spot. Even if he doesn't get it to open the season, I'm still not going to be surprised if we see Cooper Cousins as Penn State starting center at some point this season. Anthony Donka and Nolan Rucci are battling out at that right tackle spot. Left tackle is probably going to be Drew Shelton, but we know Drew Shelton's out for the spring. So that's allowed, other guys to step up into that left tackle spot and work on their craft and to try to earn some more playing time this upcoming fall. I know JB Nelson has been taking snaps at tackle. Javen Williams has been taking snaps out there as well. So there's a lot of faces on the offensive line for sure, a couple of battles to watch, but really it's going to be those battles at center and right tackle that we're watching closely with left tackle presumably kept down with lockdown by Drew Shelton once he returns. At left guard, you'll probably have JB Nelson. Center, we'll see. Right guard, Salim Morley returns. Center and right tackle are really those two spots we're watching. Offensively, notably offensively, we have not seen Jackson Smolik the last 2 weeks. I believe we saw him in that first practice open to the media, but we have not seen him either of the last 2 practices. James Franklin has not mentioned anything with Smolik, but one practice is worth noting. 2 practices raises an eyebrow. If he's not out there next week, then it'll be interesting if we start hearing anything from Franklin about that. But so far, no news on why Jackson Smolik has not practiced. That's the rundown of the offense. Defensively, a little bit shorter out there. Like I said, Tom Allen's adapted well. I think what stands out to me defensively is just that experience and size they have in the middle at defensive tackle. It's going to be really big for them this year. Defensive end, Dennis Sutton missed the first 2 practices we saw, but was out there this past week, which is good
Great
sign.
To see.
Not that there's any worries about what he's going to be able to do this year. I think he's going to have an all Big Ten, maybe even all American type season. So I don't think there's any worries even if he was going to miss this week, but he was back out there. The defensive end rotation is going to work itself out. Who's going to emerge as that that second guy? Presumably Abdul Carter, who is doing well in that transition, but it's going to take time to truly get comfortable there. So you got Denai, you got Abdul. Jameel Lyons is going to be a big guy to watch this spring and fall. And there's a couple other guys obviously at that position. Linebacker, it looks to be doing just fine without Abdul Carter, without Curtis Jacobs. Tony Rojas looks bigger, faster, stronger. Keon Wiley's been somebody who I think has been looking solid the first few weeks. And then you, of course, got guys like Dominic DeLuca, Tyler Elsdon. Kavion Key is another young guy to remember there at the position. And then the secondary, I think it just proves that the safety position is going to be a really big strength for this team. Kevin Winston, Jalen Reed, and Zakee Wheeler, who's been getting praise from James Franklin for the last few weeks, having his best time as a Penn State football player, according to James Franklin right now. And then cornerback, they're going to have to figure out the exact falling of that depth chart, but I think they look all solid at all solid at the cornerback position. Obviously brought in A.J. Harris and Jalen Kimper from the transfer portal. Both will be big pieces of that cornerback room. Then you got guys like Cam Miller, Elliot Washington, and a couple others there who will also be, competing for quite a bit of playing time this fall. So I think everything's progressing pretty well for Penn State. I'll obviously have some questions, but to be frank, we're only seeing 15 minutes of practice, and we're pretty much seeing the least active 15 minutes of practice going through individual drills and stuff like that. So the spring game will be our first chance to really see them in, an extended glimpse of them, and then hopefully in the fall, they do another open practice like they did last year, which was still quite basic, but it gave us at least a little bit of an extended glimpse at the Nittany Lions heading into last year. And so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, a lot to unpack right there. Number one, I can confirm via sources, Jackson Smolik did get hurt a couple weeks ago. We don't know the extent of it, so wait and see. Obviously, him not being at practice and the whole getting hurt thing is not a good sign. Although QB3, so it's not the worst thing in the world. It does give Grunkmeyer a little bit of a chance to get some more reps, which is good for the young buck, especially his first couple months in practice at Penn State.
He'd be I guess be third in line in terms of reps right now behind Aller and Perpila.
Yeah. So, and I mean, let's be honest, knock on wood, I don't see either of those guys. I'm sorry, I don't see whoever QB3 is playing this season. Now there's always a chance, obviously, so that is definitely a concern. But we'll wait and see what the actual report is.
It would certainly not be.
Not a good year.
Not be a good.
Other things, I wanted to pull up this clip that Joel Haas from the Daily. No, was he from the Collegian? I think he was from the Collegian.
Yeah.
I wanted to pull it up, but it's not loading right now. So if you follow him on Twitter, go on Twitter, type in Joel Haas. You can go look at some wide receiver clips he posted. Just a very simple drill, wide receiver drill, and Malik McLean trips up twice, drops the ball. Julian Fleming does the same drill with ease. Julian Fleming's footwork in that drill looks phenomenal. I think Julian Fleming is going to be a stud personally. I think this is going to be a very big, very big year for him in Pennsylvania yet again. Other than that, I mean, running back 3 is an interesting competition, it sounds like, between a bunch of different dudes, but it sounds like Wallace is starting to make some noise there.
Wallace is definitely making noise at that. I did say Wallace. Spot? I think I did say Wallace, but yeah, Wallace is definitely making noise on the running back position, for that number 3 spot in the running back rotation behind Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. And I think it's going to be him or Quinn and Martin. They still have London Montgomery. They're working out this spring, but London Montgomery's still only, I think, $185 or so, which it makes it a little tougher for him to make an impact on the field this year.
Of course.
And then, so those are the guys that they have in camp this spring, and then of course I'll add one more to the mix for summer.
Yeah. If you want to check out those post-practice presser videos that you were talking about, they're on our YouTube channel at PennState Football 1 on YouTube. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot to talk about in terms of practice. It's very basic. DDS is back, which is huge. So it's nice to see him back. I know there wasn't really a concern there, just more to see him. Nice to see him back. They have a lot of visitors scheduled for the next month and a couple months. I don't even want to dive into the official visits yet. I'm going to table that for later. I want to talk about this Friday. This Friday, Penn State is expected to host a flurry of big-name prospects. I'd say the 2 biggest names, and this is debatable, I guess, just because there's a lot of talent coming. But the 2 biggest names would be quarterback Matt Zoller, a guy who we talked about at length and nauseum at this point, who's coming over for an unofficial. This is big because this is probably their last chance to sell him before he commits on April 4th, I think it is. He will be taking other visits to Georgia, I believe. I think Missouri, and there's a rumor he's going to take one to Bama. I don't think that's been confirmed yet. But yeah, no, this is going to be interesting to see where he stands. And then also, I want to get your thoughts on Quincy Porter, Rivals 100 wide receiver out of Bergen Catholic, coming over for a visit. I know they don't do well with Bergen Catholic usually, but who knows? You never know.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm really intrigued by the Quincy Porter visit, just because I'll be the first one to admit that I've been quite pessimistic about Penn State's chances in that one. But hey, they get him back on campus for this visit. Maybe that can change a few things there. But I still think they have plenty of ground to make up in that recruitment if they're going to have a chance. As I said in our nitbits this morning, I think that's going to be a SEC Ohio State battle, but perhaps Penn State can change that this week.
Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting to see where these things land. I spoke mistakenly before. He already visited Missouri on the 20th, visits Pitt tomorrow and Penn State the 29th, and then April 2nd, Georgia before making a decision. Do we think even Zollers knows where he's going yet? Like, I feel like it's just kind of like a guessing game right now.
I think it's one of those things where I've heard so much from different people on this recruitment about which way it's heading, and I've been feeling Penn State, Missouri, but there's also there's always that having Georgia in this recruit, like you just can't count Georgia out, and I know Georgia, I think feels quite confident about their chances, but I mean, Georgia going after Juju Lewis makes Zollers a little bit more complicated. And they just picked up a 2026 commitment from one of the top quarterbacks in the country as well. Missouri, I know Missouri has a lot of buzz around them because of their offense, their recent quarterback development, and some potential NIL numbers out there. And then Penn State obviously has a lot going for them as well. But if you're asking me if I think that maybe he doesn't even know where he's leaning right now, I would say that's a definite possibility that they could be going to these visits still kind of unsure about who even has the lead in the recruitment, and that would make these visits all the more important.
Yeah, so now a couple updates here. Like Georgia, you just mentioned, got Jared Curtis. He's the number 19 kid in the 2026 class. 4-star currently, probably a 5-star when it's all said and done, if he remains with that ranking at least. So does that scare you off if you're going to go look at Georgia? The fact that Georgia's 2 days before his commitment definitely would worry me if I was Penn State a little bit. On top of that, but you do get them on the weekend right before Easter. You get to go visit Penn State, and the rumors here have been it's been NIL driven for the most part, and Missouri's got a hefty check on the table. Maybe not a check; they probably have like a promise on the table, I should say. Here's the handshake deal, because that's how most of these things work. But I mean, some of the rumors are saying that it's like upper 6 figures. Like, can Penn State match that?
I don't think Penn State can match it on NIL alone, no. But Penn State, has always been open. Like, you come to Penn State, and opportunities will open up for you. I mean,
you could get a really cool car commercial like Julian Fleming.
You got Julian Fleming's cool car commercial. Drew Aller is always, he's had a couple, 1 or 2 new vehicles during his time at Penn State. He's got some NIL deals going his way. There's always going to be opportunities when you're at a big program like Penn State, and but also, I mean, if you're Matt Zollers, is NIL the most important thing to you, or do you think you have a better chance of being developed into an NFL quarterback at Penn State or at Missouri, and do you think you have a better chance of winning anything of value at Penn State or Missouri? Those could be other things that are factoring in. I know NIL is the big conversation in every recruitment today, but there is more to these recruitments than just NIL. Certainly, getting thrown 6-7 figures helps. Helps a lot in these recruitments at times, but it's not the end all be all for recruitments as well.
True. So that's going to be an interesting one to follow. We mentioned Quincy Porter. Now there's a couple others on campus. Malachi Goodwin's a good one. We did confirm that he will be on campus again for the weekend of the 31st, I think it was. I think it was the first weekend. So he's one to keep an eye on. I don't think he makes a commitment. Now, here's something that's interesting. And one of our own, Marshall Levinson, just posted an article about this. So Landon Rink just announced a commitment date, right?
Yep. Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Ohio State.
I can't even find the article. I lost it already. He ranked the contenders for that one, ranked Penn State as the 5th best, which would mean the worst odds out of those 5 they just named. Now, he's visiting Friday. Is there a chance that they could flip this visit completely or flip his recruitment completely?
I don't see it personally happening. Well, I'll be interested to see if he's still even makes that trip.
That's true. That's
because I think I did see on his Twitter page that the top 3 out of the top 5 was Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Ohio State. Which, if you're not considering Penn State at that point, why even take the visit?
Agreed.
But I don't see that one happening, and I would assume that would also mean his official visit in June would be off. Which, if another player committing soon is Alvin Henderson, 2025 running back. He is committed April 5th, I believe.
Yes,
I think Rick was the 3rd, correct?
I think it was the 5th. Yeah,
5th. Zollers is the 4th, so that's going to be a busy couple days for Penn State targets.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, I'd also say Henderson probably, I would have to guess, is going to be an Auburn commitment. I haven't put a future cast just yet, but that would be my guess on Henderson. And he also has an official visit scheduled to Penn State for, I actually think that may be May 31st.
Yeah.
And
same weekend.
Maybe he makes that visit, but I would assume for now, if he does commit elsewhere, that visit would likely be off as well. But even if you take away those two, Penn State has a really impressive official visit schedule coming up in June. I mean, we just got confirmations of
so many.
Multiple rivals, top 100, top 50 prospects in the country, including number 30 overall, 4-star cornerback Chris Ewald Jr., a former Michigan commitment. He's going to be visiting Mayshawn Montgomery out of Florida, wide receiver, 6'3", 175, somebody to watch. Penn State is certainly a legitimate contender there. Taz Williams, Phillip Bell, another top 100 wide receiver visiting. I mean, Penn State fans can see the full list of official visits on our forum, or you go to pennstate.rivals.com/visits/football/2025, and they can see everybody that we have confirmed so far for official visits. It's a very impressive list from the May 31st weekend all the way to that June 21st weekend. There's plenty of prospects on this list.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into like going into every single name because we've went over a lot of these names.
And I'm sure we'll go over them again.
Oh, you know we will. So it's going to be a long pod that day. But I do want to talk to you about this. So Penn State has Lyric Samuel committed at wide receiver, right?
Yep.
They're also trending really well for Lex Cyrus from what we know, and Jeff Exiner.
Yep.
So that'd be 3 receivers. I'm looking at this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 other receivers out there that are taking official visits. How many do they take, and which of those 8 names do you think has the best shot of ending up at Penn State?
How many to take is interesting. I think 4 would probably be a safe number because there's a couple guys on this official visit schedule that they're just talents I cannot see them turning down. Now, let's assume they land, because we have future casted Cyrus and Jeff Exiner to the class. So let's assume they land them because more often than not, you and I are right with our future cast. I believe I'm around 87%. I think you're right around the 87 to 90% range as well. More often than not,
that was right to me.
We're pretty accurate, giving ourselves a pat on the back. But
of course,
yeah. Always. So there's obviously, like I said, a lot of high value targets on this board still. Mayshawn Montgomery, Taz Williams Jr., Phillip Bell, Kellishawn Johnson, Samari Reed. All those guys are 4-star prospects. The one we do have that's actually not a wide receiver for Penn State is Brandon Finney. He's being recruited as a cornerback.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that is worth noting there for anybody who looks at our list. But everybody else listed at wide receiver is being recruited as a wide receiver. And that also includes, I'm not sure I see him on here, man, to add him, but Romero Ison out of Maryland.
May 31st, he's on there, I believe.
But he's another one to note. But yeah, I think 4 is probably the safe bet right now. And I think if you can land those other 2, you then just see which one you can potentially land out of that Nashawn Montgomery, Taz Williams, Phillip Bell, Samari Reed, Kelshawn Johnson group there. And another one to watch is recent Oregon decommitment, Adrian Wilson. That's one that Penn State's been on for a while, and he just decommitted from Oregon, I think, on Tuesday night. So that's definitely somebody to watch for Penn State as well at that wide receiver position. 4-star prospect, number 102 nationally, number 19 wide receiver in the country.
Yeah, going to be a fun one this summer. There's a ton of official visitors. I think if I'm counting correctly, we're looking at around 38 to 40, but don't count me with math because my math is awful sometimes.
Also, worth noting, again, I don't think it happens, but perhaps we see Quincy Porter take an official visit. I don't think it happens, as in I don't think Penn State lands him, but I could see an official visit potentially happen.
That would be fun. That would be very fun. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But anything else really? We went over a lot today between the team, practice, recruiting. Not really anything else, right?
Yeah, no, I think the other thing worth noting on campus today, 3-star safety Aiden Manute out of Hawaii.
So he's coming for an official visit as well, correct?
Yes, very rare that we see a Hawaiian prospect visit Penn State, and unofficial visits are on their dime. So that is an expensive unofficial visit, and I'm sure he's taking some other visits while he's out here. But he has 3 official visits set: Penn State, Nebraska, Washington. We'll see what happens there, and I'll be interested to catch up with him sometime after today to see how that visit went.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting, especially because he is coming back on June 7th for an official visit, which will be paid for. Can't imagine Penn State's going to pay for that unless they were serious about him. So definitely something to monitor. But yeah, no. One more thing I forgot. Puff Johnson coming back. That is a interesting return. I mean, Moon Township, PA guy, so it makes sense, I guess, for him to return. Didn't really start many games, but was a key contributor. So it is always good to get those guys back because nowadays it seems like everyone wants a bag, and especially in basketball because there's like 2,500 dudes in the portal already, and it's only been a week.
Yeah, and I would also say just a basketball something interesting worth potentially watching. Oklahoma forward Otega Owe entered the portal this week. And if that last name sounds familiar, that's because he is brother of former Nittany Lion defensive end Odafe Owe, who, of course, was a first-round pick for the Baltimore Ravens a couple years ago, still with the Ravens. So perhaps the Owe family is returned to Happy Valley. That's just speculation.
No, that's perfectly fair speculation.
No inside information. But perhaps the Owe family we could see a return of the Owe family to Happy Valley at some point in the upcoming months, whether that's for a visit or maybe Penn State does target him. We'll have to dig into that, but thought that was interesting when I saw him enter the portal. And if Penn State does choose to pursue him, it would certainly make sense from a talent standpoint, from a roster standpoint, and from an Owe family standpoint. And this is a quality player. 11.4 points per game this year, 3.8 rebounds a game. This is a high quality player that Penn State could certainly use. But with coming as a high quality player, there's certainly going to be other teams out there looking for him as well.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to be interesting because number one, he was recruited by Shrewsbury, so I think Notre Dame's going to take a look if I had to guess. But yeah, I do expect Penn State to definitely take a big peek in him, just because of the connections alone, and he's produced. He's a wing, he's a good player, and he could slide right there in the backcourt, or you can run a 3-guard system if you want.
Sure.
So that's going to be interesting. There's a couple other names as well. I'm not going to dive too deep into these guys. I know they're very serious about Amari Williams out of Drexel. The issue with Amari Williams out of Drexel is he wants $600K. So I don't think you're going to pony up $600K for him if I'm Penn State, especially because basketball doesn't have as much NIL as football or even wrestling, maybe you can argue. They are all in on Josh Cohen. Josh Cohen's a guy that they were all in on last year before he went to UMass. He was formerly of St. Joe's, Pennsylvania. he's a really interesting center prospect. It was reported on Twitter by multiple people that he's going to take visits, and one of those visits will be to Penn State. He hasn't scheduled the Penn State one yet, but he is going to schedule one to Penn State supposedly. So keep an eye out there. Tons of transfer portal talk on the boards. We have a transfer portal thread. I'm trying to keep track of everything, but there's just so much nonsense going on. So that should be fun. Puff Johnson returns. We're still waiting on a decision from Ace Baldwin. Last we heard, it wasn't looking good. Now it's starting to look closer to the 50-50 line. So we'll kind of wait and see what happens there. But yeah, we're kind of that's kind of it, right? I don't think there's anything else.
I think we covered all that. Obviously, Ace Baldwin is going to be the big one. Definitely. There's been a crazy one the last few weeks or last 2 weeks or so. At one point, it seemed like leaving Penn State was going to be a legitimate possibility, but I will say that over the last few days, it's definitely been a lot more chatter and positive for potential positive news for Penn State along those lines.
So we'll wait and see what happens there. But as always, if you guys haven't yet, hit the subscribe button down below if you're on YouTube. If you aren't on YouTube and you're on Apple or Spotify or any podcasting app, just give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating if you can. It helps us grow the pod, helps us get out there to more of Nittany Nation. But for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the PSU 365 podcast. Signing off.